What's up, people? Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do a video that's like I said, I wanted to expand my content. Don't want to just do market watch after market watch after market watch. I want to do, I want to do a consistent amount of market watch, but I do want to throw in a couple other things. See what people like. I guess get out there and spread my wings, whatever you want to say. So I want to do like a little test video. I guess these are like 5 cards that have effects that players either forget about or just escape players' mind. It isn't really like a whole like separate section or like like something crazy, but like I guess to get the feel of what I'm trying to do here is we're gonna start with infinite impermanence. Now everyone knows what infinite impermanence does. If you don't have any cards on the field, you can activate it from the hand, and it's pretty much Valor. But another thing that it does, if you set it and you activate it, it negates all the cards in that column. Now the part that people sometimes forget, it isn't necessarily it isn't necessarily like the whole effect. It's more of that some people assume that it only negates your opponent's columns. Like I guess I was talking to my friend where there's some people who kind of go like there is times where it just escapes your mind and you play it in the middle, and because of habit you play your other card in the middle and you screw yourself over. But a lot of times like people just assume that cards like this are so good that, oh yeah, it's just gonna affect your opponent, so they do it, and then without thinking assume that only your opponent gets negated. But no, it negates the entire column. So this is just like a little like it's like I guess like a diet version of what I'm trying to talk about here. So I guess number 2 is Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Now the part of the effect that people forget about is that Ghost Ogre could also be activated from the field. So this was actually a lot of people when people were like side decking and main decking Lullaby of Obedience. If you weren't completely sure what exactly to call, like if you didn't know exactly what hand traps they had, you could call Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So if they did have it, whether they put it in your hand or on the field, it would always be able to activate the effect. And a lot of people kind of forget that you could summon this card, tribute off the field, and it'll still give you the same thing. So if you're able, I guess for example, if you're able to end your combo and you're able to like somehow just summon this to the field like without getting its effect negated, or you could just have, if you have emergency teleport, just right there, sitting as part of your combo, and you don't need it to extend, you could activate this and you could summon the Ghost Ogre. You can just have it to negate monster effects. You can use it to bait. You can normal summon the Ghost Ogre, and your opponent might be like, okay, that's kind of dumb. Then when then you kind of go and activate the effect, and if they have like a face up continuous spell or trap card that needs to be face up to resolve, you have the Ghost Ogre to to out it. So like there's small little interaction that you could do with it. It isn't really that crazy. Like I said, this isn't a video where it's like, oh, did you know that Ghost Ogre could actually no. This is just little small things that people forget about that actually might. I'm not saying it'll win you a duel, but it could get you out of could get you out or into certain situations if you're not careful. Number 3 is Book of Eclipse. So everyone thinks Book of Eclipse, oh yeah, activate it, change all monster in the field to face down defense position. It's basically Book of Moon on crack. It's you activate it, everything goes face down. Usually, you are getting rid of every single monster before the end of the turn. So there is like a second part of this effect that a lot of times even I kind of forget to realize. Like I'm always quick to think of, oh, like, well, what are cards that are gonna be good now? What are cards that'll work against this deck? And a lot of times I'm like, oh, Book of Eclipse. But then I kind of realize that, well, it's only good in certain situations. Like if you're going first and you set it as a card to like completely stop them from doing links or turn off a whole bunch of effects that need to be face up, then it's like, well, you're gonna leave it, you're gonna leave them open to being able to draw, 2 cards instead you're already activating Book of Eclipse. It's pretty much like you lose a lot of advantage if you don't use it in the right situation. So there is a lot of times where people kind of just like it probably doesn't happen in game, but they probably grab this card thinking that it's going to be the perfect counter to a certain strategy, and then as they're reading it, they're like, oh, this is good. They put it in their deck, put it in their side deck, and they start doing, play testing, and then someone offhandedly mentions, oh yeah, it is good, but I don't like that it makes your opponent draw. And you're like, what? You go back, you read it, and realize, oh wow, yep, it does make your opponent draw, and you immediately take it out, and you end up just running regular Book of Moon, or maybe just running a Kaiju or something. So, that like, I guess that's like the little part of the card that people end up forgetting. Number 4, I have Dust Tornado. Now, Dust Tornado, I remember this as a kid thinking it was dumb. I was like, this is useless. This is just completely, like, I guess, as a kid, this is idiotic. It would never be used. I thought that was such a waste of a card. But I guess in older Yu-Gi-Oh, since it was very much skill-based, there is a bit of, like, a skill advantage, using Dust Tornado. It's like, it's like you could have it as, obviously to take out your opponent's back row and stuff, but it could also be just some kind of bait, just some kind of like bait card. They have like an MST, and you have like a Solemn, Solemn, and then you have Dust Tornado, and you really don't want them to hit that Solemn, so you just put Dust Tornado out, and then like maybe there could be a situation where you're afraid of them having a heavy storm, so you're like, all right, I'm gonna hold one of my traps in my hand. Your opponent goes to play, MST, and you're like, okay, hit Dust Tornado, and you're like, all right, they hit Dust Tornado, and you're like, well, screw this, I'm gonna chain it, I'll destroy your MST, and then I'll set my other trap that's in my hand, and then it basically kind of could let you know what's in your opponent's hand, so you don't like play into like the heavy storm. You don't just set all 3 of them, then they heavy storm you and you're screwed. You could set the 2, have 1 in your hand, and then kind of like, this is a lot of old school Yu-Gi-Oh logic and stuff, but this just that whole, then you can set 1 spell or trap card from your hand. A lot of people don't even consider that an effect, really. They're just like, oh, that's just whatever. I just need to destroy a spell or trap card. That's its main use. It's freaking it's a worse MST, but you kind of forget that you could set another spell or trap card. So I'm not saying it's gonna doesn't break any kind of meta, but in old school Yu-Gi-Oh, it adds a little bit of extra interaction to where if you kind of had like the knowledge, especially like if you played like Delinquent Duo, and that, okay, all they have is an MST in their hand, then it would have been a smart idea to drop the Dust Tornado instead of dropping, I don't know, I'm gonna start ranting about stuff we don't need to talk about. And the final card that I wanted to add to this list is Castel, the skyblaster Musketeer. Yes, I know how to read. Okay, so this is one of those like cards. I could probably find a whole bunch of other cards that are like this, but this is an XYZ that you usually only use 1 effect. All right, you just use 1 effect. All right, you can detach 2 XYZ materials from this card, then target 1 other face-up card in the field, shuffle into the deck. Nothing more needs to be said. There is nothing else you could possibly tell me. I don't want to hear it. That is the best effect on this card. That's what you're using. But for the purpose of this list, you can detach 1 XYZ material from this card, then target 1 face-up monster on the field, change it to face-down defense position. This thing is a Book of Moon. I remember when this card first came out, and I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool, that Book of Moon effect, but everyone just wanted, the ability to send stuff back into the deck. To this day, this is actually still a very good effect. Like, if there was a good deck that spammed out rank 4s, this would be, hella be played in there. This is a very good removal, especially for some of the, some of those hard to get over cards, but like I said, for the purpose of this list, this is one of those golden examples of a lot of people just completely forget. Like, there's probably people who like first come into the game and maybe kind of adopt some of the bad habits of some of the other Yu-Gi-Oh players around, and they don't read their cards, and maybe someone's like, oh, you should just run Castel, and they're like, okay, what does it do? Oh yeah, you detach 2 to freaking spin, and at that point they're like, okay, detach 2 to spin, that's the best effect. And even though there's a big old text wall, all they know is detach 2 to spin, so they just play the card for a couple weeks until one day they're like reading it and they're like, huh, this thing's also a freaking Book of Moon. Crazy. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna end it there before I start ranting for some reason about freaking Castel. But yeah, thanks for watching. There'll be more videos like this. Until the next one, peace out, guys.